Here we have the lower bracket kicks off right now. If you missed the first 3 games, 25 competitors from the upper bracket have moved on, and the bottom 25 in that same lobby have now been drafted down into the lower bracket, where the remaining best performers for the lower bracket teams have been awaiting them. So now here we have these 50 duos with their last chance to break through a top 15. Taco, there's going to be a lot of mix-ups right now, right? A lot of shakeups here in these games. You don't know exactly who's landing on you, who's deciding that, you know, they're claiming what spots. It is kind of a shakeup, right? Even now, we're watching Costa and Zypha try something different here in this game here, where they were just landing all the way south. They're trying something completely new right now.
Yeah, it looks as though they've taken note of where Oliver, OG, and Larson like to go over by the breezy coast, but Oliver, Larson, seems like they beat him to the punch. I mean, Larson and Oliver have a lot of experience here. This is their drop that they've been landing at all season. So the fact that Costa and Zypha are just going to look to last minute tango, it's tough. Oliver going for the immediate drop, definitely wants to take this advantageous position. Costa, only 12 so far out of that shield, but he is on the run. Zypha trying to provide a little bit of a recovery. Oliver OG gets the knock, though. Too much damage for Costa to try and turn this one around. Costa also having been split so far away from his duo is another part of the reason why things just go completely south for them, because Larson had the immediate backup if Oliver needed it.
Of all the drops you're going to try to contest, you're going to push Oliver, OG, and Larson, who land at arguably the most difficult drop to perfect. You have to technically hit that launch pad and then know how to dive into the drop for the weaponry. This is way more skill involved than any other drop probably on the game right now. And if I'm Costa and Zypha, I'm thinking they threw the bag like big time. Like this is, that was a huge mistake.
Part of the reason why I think they were willing to take that fight, though, is because you have to think about it. Their first few games warming up today, it's against the likes of Paco and Mixon. So maybe
they moved on.
Yeah, but Costa and Zypha, maybe they just considered Oliver, OG, Larson, are they at the same caliber in their minds versus a team like Paco and Mixon? And well, they quickly found out that they've got to realize that there is a standard in NA, and teams like Larson and Oliver, they're not here to play around. They want to be in the grand finals.
Well, here we have Tony making the push right now into Sharkman and Teeny, and great low ground tags coming out of Sharkman, but Tony responds with a excellent exchange here. Already looking to go ahead and start suffocating out some new angles. I like the approach so far, but I'm not seeing the pressure coming in from Tony's duo here, not just yet at least. It's all Tony putting in the work right now. He's got Sharkman boxed up and angled out, but they turned back around. There it is, finally. Cat jumps into the mix here, at least gets a knock, but no finish just yet. They're gonna have to recuperate for a second. Tenley should be able to pick up his teammate. No, actually cancels the pickup in fear of them coming down, and that'll be wraps for the duo down here at the Brawlers battle. Well played.
But Cat and Tony are just so far south here on Brawlers Battleground, closer to that Cliffside Lodge. Could be a prime pickings for Shadow and Zooks to come through after the fact. So we'll have to check back in with those teams a little bit later on here, because Restored Reels, Bacon, and TK looking for a little bit of redemption here in the lower bracket. Had a lot of difficulties in uppers after they were contested here in day 2. And so the fact that they're in this position currently, this is definitely a team that you would not expect to have struggled so far to make their way towards the grand finals. But again, Bacon got to keep his wits about him. Flinty nearly had super advantageous flank there, and he does get a couple hits onto Bacon's shields, but a couple flow berries, and Bacon's right back into the mix.
Like what we're seeing right here, and this is good setup so far by TK and Bacon, but the second zone already starting to approach here shortly. I mean, they got to wrap this up quickly and start getting to gathering material, or they will start falling behind. This is one of the problems they had in the uppers before they got knocked down. It's these slow starts to these early and mid games. We know they do well when they can make it to end game. However, It's this early and that they seem to struggle the most with, and I don't know what to really account it up to, whether or not it's the drop spot or the types of teams they've been facing. But here in the lower bracket, TK, feeling pretty good about TK and Bacon's odds at moving on. Jumping into a Pikes and Zeus. We already know that Zeus was landing at Mount Olympus before. I wonder if they've mixed up their drop as well. So we're seeing a lot of potential shakeups here, sticking to the theme, I guess, of what we expected.
Have to keep in mind that for some of these teams, you know, they get a glimpse of what the lower bracket drop map might be looking like, and if there's too much traffic, they don't want to risk getting triple con, so they just look for the direct con elsewhere. Also, teams that were uncontested, maybe they feel as though if they con a team, even if it's at a drop spot that they have less familiarity with, they still feel as though it might lead to a better Surge strategy overall. So Surge definitely a big part of the reason why I think teams are willing to take these risks, because realistically, top 15, you do need at least 2 strong performances, but that does give you a little bit of leeway with at least one, I don't want to say throwaway game necessarily, MDF, but experimental might fit the bill a little bit more here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's only so much room for error in a type of format setting like this, and I'll take a look at this. My guy Crackley here with D-Roller. This is big. Another team that I definitely think has the chops to make it to finals. Top 15. Let's see it. This is a crazy loadout. Bunkers are not available just yet, so how things shook up for this team right here.
Certainly looks, though, as if D-Roller and Crackley definitely want to make a play for the weapons bunker once the time arrives, because Crackley still managed to connect off that Hunter's DMR despite not even having the most optimal visuals just yet, at least on some of the other teams. He's got some good height there on the hill, but for a moment there, didn't seem like he was fully aware of the fact that there was 2 separate duos.
We have Katara and Fade here, a little bit split up at the Pleasant Piazza. It's about 3 teams in the mix, and then a few on the outskirts, potentially looking to rotate in. All in all, things are pretty settled here for now. Not too much wear and tear in the loadout, so things should be able to shape up well for this team in the early to mid-game setting right now. Shot's going to tell us how many teams are there, but on the other side, Blake and Mackwood coming out of the upper bracket here. Shortcomings from game number 1. Unfortunate circumstances for Blake set him back, but here he is looking to make a top 15. We saw them make an end game at least once in the upper bracket. They're off to an okay start, right, Taco? They got an elimination here.
Yeah, it's decent, but while they're trying to establish boxing up around that forecast tower, a little bit too many gaps, and that's going to result in Blake losing a decent amount of his shields. Looking more towards the Grim Gate territory, though. Debo and Zirids, keep in mind, this was a team that we saw like to start things off over at Rebels Roost, but it seems as though they have also decided to take their odds elsewhere. But we did see them rather reluctant to go for direct fights. It seemed as though they wanted to employ a little bit more of that silent sneak-up strategy. And that might not be as opportune here in the lower bracket, because this is a lot more scrappy in lowers. So many of these teams just kind of understanding the fact that if they linger for too long with these engagements, they're just going to get third party every single time. So time to elimination, definitely a priority for all of these teams. And just being able to establish space is another big factor here that these teams are trying to consider.
I mean, the other factor as well is the stress of some teams that just came up short, right? Like Maggio was in 26th place, losing to the placement tiebreaker there. Showing us that he just nearly had enough to push through. Definitely a potential favorite hit. I like what Possess is doing here. Aiming at the floors. Don't some caution to the builds there.
Possessed and Jay sick, though. They know that there's still a couple of other teams, aside from Rafiki and Cirque lingering nearby at Pleasant Piazza. Looking back over, though, quick update on Larson and Oliver. Still only have that one elimination in tow, but they have migrated a little bit more west towards Classy Courts. And this might be a slightly better opportunity for them to try and establish a little bit more surge. They're definitely going to need it at this point because you can't just bank on one elimination for the entirety of this first lobby, especially with the way that we've been seeing so many other teams kind of entangle with each other.
Let's see what Larson and Oliver are actually going to decide here. They have Vorteca and Chris sizing them up for a second. Larson makes the move first, punches behind the wall there, trying to see if he can catch him while they were on the foot rotate. Smart play, but Vorteca and Chris were all aware of the potential threat. You gotta appreciate, you know, a team being very, very cautious, right, in this type of setting here when there's only 3 games on the line. Blind firing through the tree. Almost connects there.
Also caught a glimpse of Cease and Jack a little bit in the distance here by Classy Courts. They could be another team to potentially like to threaten Vorteca and Crisp, depending on how Vorteca and Crisp actually path out of Classy. And Jack is honestly a player that has really been kind of elevating himself on people's radars this season. When he was initially with Pilot, yeah, that's some nice connections on the waterbending mythic from Vorteca. But yeah, when Jack was initially with Pilot, you know, didn't necessarily have the same level of success that he's been seeing with Cease. I think Cease's experience and capabilities for IGLing have just helped because Jack's able to get fraggy for sure.
Cease is one of the best to ever do it. You know, he's been around for such a long time, an extremely decorated player. It's been a long while since he's found himself with a, you know, a very high placement, if you will, in an FNCS finals type settings, but the fact that he's been qualifying and putting up the numbers year after year, right, it says enough in its own. So I'm excited to see what Cease can do as he continues to kind of filter his way through these young and up-and-coming players and honestly giving them a chance, right? They just complement Cease's experience like you kind of mentioned here. And realistically, we should be seeing Cease set up straight for the finals here, but it's going to come down to his performances.
Yeah, and they definitely had a tough break in the upper brackets just now, finishing in 29th place, but maybe that might just be the last little bit of motivation they need to try and really lock things in for top 15 here today. X-Spawn, he's got Day on the ropes here. Day doing everything he can. It's an absolute scramble, but things are looking so grim here at the Underworld. Pawn and Mew looking to shut down Day's run here in the first lobby of the lower bracket. Day finally getting a second there to recover some shield, but it's just not going to make a difference. Another team third partying from a distance, the waterbending mythic. There's no way Day could have possibly seen that coming, and X-Spawn, though, nice recovery. That's a clean shot. Don't shoot at me or I'll fire right back.
Nice little bailout tag right there. Give him some room to work with here. And honestly, they needed that 100 damage. Look at that. Just giving him the cushion right now. Can he do it again is the question. If I'm X-Spawn, I'm thinking I'd take the risk here and try to challenge that team in the distance, but being a little more passively might backfire. This could be one of the last opportunities he gets to actually find a tag. They're one of the only teams on the outskirts here. But those are the decisions you have to live with. Let's jump in with Blanc. Sandler playing the low ground right now. Fight for the capture point seems to have been already concluded. However, this is a team that's below the surge now, so what happens here is they're gonna have to fight with Sandler. Third partied potentially here. No, actually it's Hades. Okay, so yeah, this duo's just got their names in the book, if you will.
Yeah, this is again.
Don't miss. Wait a second.
That's big though.
Okay.
Hades gets knocked. Can't tell. It does appear as though from a distance, Hades just encountering some problems, but a decent attempt there from Blanc and Saddle. They had the right idea. We're down on Surge. Where better to find it? We'll try to take a fight on Rift Island in the process. They also needed the loot that could have come from the capture point. Clearly, they weren't able to be successful in that endeavor, but it's the thought that counts at times.
Think about this right here. We got Mega and Users at the bottom right of the map. Shadow and Zooks. Yeah, that's definitely a team that was also in the upper bracket, got knocked to the lowers, and continued to just fight their way through. Shadow still looking for his big break. Zook's been on the rise, very much in conversations. These are definitely two players that have been moving in the right direction. You have Carrot there. I forgot what was Carrot's original name, but it seems like he's now Carrot FN. Let's see it.
Sometimes you just gotta take in the view. And Walker's definitely enjoying his sightseeing right now. That's a nice shot off the sniper. Pops and Monkey just caught slipping. I mean, it's so easy when you're making these rotates to not necessarily check behind you, but those are the little moments that players like Walkers, like Thatch, are definitely going to look to take advantage of every single time. Just lining them up, and a much-needed shot as well. They'd only been about 100 above that damage threshold prior to Walker's recent connection.
I love how Walker's is like, wait, what view? Here, hold that. Big tag. Laying down the work right now. Batman and Booga. Rapid here. Pressure coming in from all the angles. Very lit up here. Teams aren't looking to let up just yet. Rapid needs to get with his teammate. You see Batman and Booga holding off on popping the chug splashes right now. There it is. Yeah, very desperate situation. I do appreciate Rapid's aid to the defense there, but Batman Booga now healthy. Water Myth coming in from the side angle there. They could open up opportunity here to third party. Meanwhile, Mega under this surge pressure. Yeah, we talked about this southeastern corner. It's not looking good at all right now for Mega or Users. Continued issues with surge.
Yeah, he does have a banana, but you don't want to use the last of your resources. At this point, though, it might not matter. Just pressure from every direction. Finally, Mega will find himself falling to the likes of Brayden, and now Revised finds his own duo, getting knocked and fully limbed in the process. Nobody is safe.
Storm, yeah, from right underneath them.
The worst part is, they know that there were two teams fighting there originally. They know that they've now just left two solos behind. And they might even be able to pick up the scraps here. But moving to zone does seem to be the priority focus. Currently Revised seems as though he's just upset in the first place at the results between his engagement with Brayden and his teammate. And he's just gonna chase this one down. Neither of these solos is gonna come out better for this, but it's a fight that is more for pride than anything else right now.
Yeah, Revive's like, can I get a couple of points? Nope. Brayden shuts that down. That's a little more salt in the wound right there, because Brayden gets rewarded with the elimination points there. Oh, but he's below the surge by a fair margin as well. He just looks to the left. There is a team there, but it just is what it is at this point. Oh, look, Specs eliminated in the zone there. Yeah, the surge already doing all the work.
Look at these bases, though. There's so many players already boxed up. Brayden trying to see if he can create a safety net of his own, but immediately catches the attention of teams that are already established in their surge towers. He's gonna have to burn through his metal as is. Pawn and Mew, meanwhile, they've found Hound and Aiden. Hound's gonna be the first to get knocked and eliminated. Pawn, though, losing Mew in the process. Doesn't have a whole lot to work with here. He's got to clutch it up. And it's seeming good to go Those are the kinds of plays that can really instill confidence in a team.
You need that right now. Top 15 means that you really can't drop a game. And if you are, you're going to need 2 strong ones to follow up behind it. So everything counts right now, especially here in the top 25 setting. And TK finds Walkers before I can even talk up the young GOAT himself. So unfortunate, but it does happen. And at least Walkers was able to earn himself a little bit of placement points here. Like we talked about, every inch counts here. TK 4 elims, placement points now. That's 18 points, not bad. But he will be looking at least, if he can stretch out about 30 or 40 points, he'll be super, super happy with that. It'll be a good solo performance at this point.
Problem is he doesn't have any white heals to do it. At least if he had a med kit, even bandages, he could look to just stick backside of zone, maybe catch some unexpected last-minute rotators. Be all the more difficult though.
Still in it. Crackly and D-Roller still in this, making their way outside the zone here. I love the positioning right now. They're at the front leading this wide rotate here, so they're not going to have to move too soon. Everyone else below them will have to make a decision first if they decide to wait it out a little bit, especially considering they don't have Flowberry, Fizz, or HP to work with. So that's going to be very interesting. Then you have Mackwood and Blake at the other outskirt here, playing for what might be a little bit of high ground. Yeah, given the fact that they actually pulled the zone here.
This is a perfect position for Blake and Mackwood. Material count, practically full, 6 splashes, ample amounts of shield. Probably Mackwood carrying all the shield potions, leaving Blake to contain their small shield potions, but this is what we need to see. For Blake and Mackwood, it's a plus MDF, but for D-Roller and Crackly, this could be the end of it all. Chubbs, Aviv also getting lit up. Blake, he's just putting the suppressive fire down. He's forcing teams to immediately surface towards the low ground. Doesn't want to let anybody else try and potentially threaten their position on height currently.
I'll be honest, I don't like Blake's decision to shoot at everyone. I think it would have been smarter to actually just finish D-Roller and Crackly there. He just had them in the most terrible of spots, but Blake trying to be more suppressive fire to support the high ground hold. We'll see if it ends up paying off, because he traded off what could have been at very, very critical points. But now let's see Oliver OG and Larson, 3 elims, 90 mats. This is desperate, but it's a top 20 nonetheless here. How did we get here? It's the moving rotate eliminations to keep him alive and in the game, and at least earn him some very, very crucial refresh, but he's gone through those mats. Cease and Jack, 2 elims. The veterans are all up and standing right now. This is what we expected, right? We expected teams that have that either have already made upper bracket appearances or have been dominating and running through lower to perform well, and we're seeing it right here.
That's like for sure.
Kicking in a bit here from Blake. Just a couple of builds there, but yeah.
Yeah, poor Oliver and Larson. Larson just got a little bit too split in that water. Playing the low ground is tough when the zone is pulling halfway over the water in the first place. Rapid, no heals, no mats, no life. Finds himself getting eliminated by Crackly and Roller. That could have been a big refresh though.
Yeah.
Those two desperately needed, possibly even some surge damage online, but again, damage, much less the focus as much as it is the elimination points.
That's it, Oliver's out of mats. He can't stay in the zone. He's touching his heels here, 2 HP. He's hoping that it bounces back, but no. Looks like it is gonna continue through. Tries to find what's left of some floor loop, but gets caught out there. But for the top 10, he almost earned 40 points that game. That's still a huge solo clutch. And TK up to 56 by himself as well. We talked about the stretch being around 40 or so. You'd be pretty content if you're solo clutching like that, but reaching as far north as a top 10 for TK right now is extremely impressive. He finds someone with their guard down. It's Commander K on the edge of zone. A huge tag there, and TK couldn't be more happy with that performance. Blake and Mackwood have all of these shamble players below him right now, and it should be their game to win at this moment right here.
Jack, pressure's really on. He's just trying to get as many points as a solo as possible, but unfortunately cut short. Still a decent look though for Cease and Jack outright. G-Monster now trying to carry the mantle, but again, Height just tearing down on the rest of the lobby. Mackwood and Blake, they've done a great job at just holding the high ground the whole way through, and now it's just the shooting grounds underneath them. Pawn as a solo still left trying to scramble to survive, but Xavi, Neko, they're the only other duo left standing, but Pawn with no mats. Could be only a matter of time. Tries to get the sneak up onto Neko. Not gonna work though. Easily spotted out. Mackwood now also joining the fray. And Neko and Xavi, they're trying to do what they can, but this just looks so good for Blake and Mackwood.
Well, I feel like they lost their chance to make it easy, so they're going to have to come down, and they still closed the deed. Very, very well played from Mackwood and Blake. My concern was the DMR pressure from high ground. We saw it earlier, or was it yesterday, with Muzz and Paper. But luckily, Blakewood and Mac had enough to seal the deal there. Well played for them to go ahead and show the NA region what they're capable of. A win to solidify a nice, comfortable positioning here. There's only 3 games, Taco, right? So that is exactly what you're looking to do.
Yeah, this is definitely the amount of cushion that you want to establish here in the lower bracket, especially when you factor in that it is top 15. So again, a big victory royale. That's 65 points as is, not even factoring in the eliminations they were able to build up. And yeah, the DMR not necessarily as ideal as maybe some other weaponry choices, but if you're able to land nearly all of your shots like what we saw those two doing, it can always work out.
Yeah, for sure. So congratulations to Blake and Mackwood right there with the big game 1. Zeke, what does this mean for us?